Watch this. Watch this.
So, Joey, let's break it down. Who has control of Greenland now?
Yeah, well, the Danes have control of Greenland, Denmark. So Denmark has what we call, they're responsible for basically their economy, their defense, their diplomatic policy. But Greenland itself is an autonomous territory of Denmark. And what that means is they control basically their domestic policies. They have their own government, and they've actually been working towards independence since 1979, really, was when they started what they call autonomous control or self-rule.
So, Joey, you kind of touched on this a little bit here already, but in terms of the location of Greenland, why is it so strategically significant for the United States and our national security?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of self-evident, right? I mean, we talk about, this is the Arctic, right? The Arctic Circle up here, but this is the Arctic Ocean. When you look at some of our adversaries like Russia, their quickest route to us, or just even to access our hemisphere, is through the Arctic Ocean. This is called the Greenland, Iceland, UK gap, which is this area here, which is best for ships to transport. So there's a couple of things here. One is economic and merchant ships, those kind of things. The other one is military. You got to be able to monitor this, and it's hard to do that from over here. It's hard to build firm structures on a base that's back here, which is where our current Air Force only base is. And so this idea that if Greenland were all American territory of some sort, United States territory, our eyes looking at our foes would be a lot easier to do, especially in this area that's very sensitive and very important to pretty much everyone that we consider to be someone that's not our friend. So just not only the size of the continent and the fact that it's in the Arctic, which is the next untapped resource, from everything from oil and gas to rich minerals to even research on climate change, it's also just its strategic placement next to not just our friends in Europe, but obviously our foes in Russia and China.
Joey, you briefly touched on the shipping routes in the region.
Yeah.
Can you show them and talk to us about why specifically they're important for the U.S.?
Now, you got to understand, maps are sometimes out of perspective. Look at this. We're taking a large look, looking down onto the Earth. And so what you see here is this entire North Asia here is Russia, right? Here's North America. So it might be hard to kind of see that right away. And then you got the Arctic Circle in between. So these shipping routes, some of them are not there yet, like the Transpolar Sea route, which would be the easiest from Russia back around. That doesn't exist yet. That's in the Arctic Ocean. But these other two, the Northwest Passage and the Northern Sea route, these are being used all the time. And as you see, these two go around each side of Greenland, especially the one that comes through Canada here. And so these routes are how commerce is done around the world. And to have some sort of a say in that, and to not be able to be pinched off as the United States from bringing things in from the north, that's a big deal. And also our ability to get things to and from, you know, a United States state, Alaska, is an important part of this too. Not to say we're going to go at war or be at odds with Canada anytime soon, but we have seen in the last couple of years, sometimes President Trump uses tough rhetoric with Canada, and sometimes we get into a tussle with them, and we may want to have more access or more control in that region.
Yeah. Well, Joey, can you describe the Russian military presence in the region?
This is quite amazing when you think about it. So, again, we're using maps here. You got to use your imagination a little bit. This is not flat. This comes up to the Arctic Circle. This all comes to the top of the sphere. So if we draw a line and just consider this, you know, the north part of the approaching the Arctic Circle, look at all of these Russian military bases, hundreds of them. And in those Russian military bases, which are on Russian land, but incredibly close, if not in the Arctic Ocean and Greenland, which is incredibly close to us, we look at some of the assets here, and that's where we start to take notice. There are naval assets here. Think a lot of their nuclear submarines, things of that nature, and opportunities to cross the Arctic Circle and get to us really quickly. Again, what it comes down to is Russia is a northern country. Of course, we're going to have more going on up here. What can we do to monitor this, to combat this, to deter this? You know, we had the nuclear missile crisis in Cuba because they were trying to get closer to us. Well, if we owned Greenland, that's not a problem, because then that's our territory and we can put whatever we want there. Not to say we can't in some ways already, but it really makes strategic sense. And what's right below Russia in this area? We have, you know, another big foe. So this idea that we could have a larger presence there in Greenland, also be able to go in and explore so much there that is natural resources and opportunities to learn the world we're going to live in 100 or 1,000 years.